Hi, I'm Eileen Bild. I'm with Hotel Talk, and I am awesomely excited to have Dominique Brightmon on my show today. And Dom has a DTM. He's a DTM and is a certified self-leadership expert with the John Maxwell Team from Baltimore, Maryland, that empowers and equips others to share their stories. In his early childhood, Dominique was raised in the church where he was taught fundamental life lessons and received a head start with public speaking. His aim is to help others unlock their inner value through reading and other forms of self-development. Because of his love of books, Dominique has written and published Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself, the follow-up bestseller, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success, and contributing author for the book Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy that is coming up in just a little bit. So Dom, thank you for being on my show today. And how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous, Eileen. Thanks for the invitation. Congrats on the show. That's right, the Eileen Hour.
The Eileen Hour, I like that. Well, I wanted to start off. So your contribution to the Crappy to Happy book is a story I think a lot of people can relate to in multiple ways. So yours is based on the idea that some gifts are wrapped in adversity. And I'm sure everybody who will be watching this interview can say they've had at least one thing of adversity happen in their life. But I want you to share what the adversity was that caused you to want to contribute to this book and share your story. So I'm going to let you take it from here and let us know what happened.
Yes, one heck of a interesting story. It was back in 2012 where, of course, some folks may remember that we thought that the world was going to end. At least that's what they were predicting. And all that really happened is that we just lost Twinkies for a month. So that was pretty much an interesting year. And my goodness. Oh, man, it was one heck of a year because that was like the year of paradigm shifts for a lot of people. Because as not only for me, but as a couple of my buddies I talked with, like that was one heck of a year that really helped folks to really transform their lives for the better. Because on September 6th that morning, I woke up one day thinking I was going to go to IT class and I was going to be having a good day. And that was my birthday. I was turning 21 that day. And then after pulling out of a gas station, after getting a coffee and a donut, it's going to hit the highway and head over to class. And then the road was still damp and my brake jammed in my car as I was making a left turn and boom, car just crashed. And I was just shell shocked. I was like, oh, shoot. Like, like, wow. All right. And I was just shell shocked and time just froze. Now my whole life didn't flash before my eyes in Japanese kanji. Thank God that didn't happen. But it was really heck of an interesting moment after probably about a good 60 seconds of just being shell shocked and coming to and realizing, all right, I got no injuries. I'm all good. I realized, you know what? All right, what should I do first? All right, let me call AAA and get myself towed because I'm in the middle of the street and it was kind of a busy street. And we're getting close to around lunchtime. I think it was like 10 something a.m. or something like that. And then called AAA and it was going to take them a while to get there. And then I called my mom and let her know, I was like, hey, got to a car accident. I'm okay though. And she's like, what, you got a car accident? And good thing I told her where it was because she hung up the phone real fast and headed over. And it was one heck of an interesting moment. While she was taking her time to head over, this wonderful lady, she came over and she knocked on my car window. And because she noticed there was a human in the car and it was blocking the road. And she's like, hey, you all right? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's a human. All right. And I jumped out the car and then frankly told her everything that happened. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. Just calm down, and just take a deep breath and all the good stuff. And then and she asked, like, hey, you want me to tow your car off the street since I work next door for BG&E, the Baltimore Gas and Electric Company? I'm like, sure, why not? Because then they could probably trade off with the AAA folks when they get over here, since this line is kind of the building here with the traffic. And man, oh man, and did that line build? Oh my goodness, it's like one of those classic fast food lines that turns into a slow food line, except there's no food at the end. You're just looking at a car wreck. And it was one heck of an interesting experience, because as their truck was pulling up, my parents arrived, and then as soon as they were about to tow my car out the street, the guy for AAA arrived. And then I was like, oh, okay, there's the guy from AAA. Y'all can probably call off your tow truck now. And then when he arrived, he realized, oh, I can't really tow this car the way it was situated, because the darn spoke in the wheel was out of the car on the other side.
Wow.
And it was kind of hard to drag the car onto his tow truck, and he needed another one. So a police officer came right after that, probably about a good 60 to 2 minutes after that. And she's like, hey, we should probably get a tow truck here, because I called AAA and it's not working for them. So they called the tow truck. They towed the car away, and then we were able to get that off the road. As folks are just driving by and staring at me, it was just interesting. It's like, oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
just looking at me. I'm like, man, it's like, this must probably what it feels like with some people. It's like, man, why the hell are y'all staring so much? Just go. We're not dead here. It's not that bad. And a couple hours later, got home, and mom just told me, it's like, hey, you got to make sure you don't give up what you have. Like, God has big plans for you, because you're still here and you still have work to do. So don't you have a class later on tonight? I'm like, yeah. Well, take my car and head over to that class. I'm like, you sure? It's like, yeah, go ahead and do it. Because this was my second to last semester for that year for my IT degree. And I like being a finisher. And mom always wanted me to get my education, as well as my father at the time. And I ended up going to class, and we celebrated later that night, my birthday that night, because, like, hey, turning 21 that day, didn't have any big plans until the weekend, since that was a Thursday. And really just that, and on top of other things, because not only did I get that birthday gift, which is probably one of the most powerful gifts of my life, a month before, my father went out for a drive and he got lost out in the city called Silver Spring, which is 45 miles away from Baltimore. And we never go there at all. We never go there at all. We just passed through there going to like South Carolina to see family or whatever. And after finding out what happened to him, after putting out a silver alert for him, since he had gray hair and everything, we found him because some local police officers called us and let us know, like, hey, we checked him into a hospital. He was driving on the opposite side of the road, and he's at the hospital. But he's okay, no injuries and everything. And when we got there, they told us that, hey, he had Alzheimer's.
Wow.
So it was really just the month before, then the gift of the car accident, and then a couple weeks later being called in to the office from my boss, who basically told me to shape up, because the personal life is showing up in the professional life. And that's something that I'm sure a lot of folks have dealt with at one time, because we may think that the personal and the professional separate, but they really are together, because if you're struggling personally, it's going to show up in drips and pieces, and sometimes maybe even dams a bit on your professional life. And my bosses took notice, and I didn't tell them anything, because I tend to keep it very personal, and just wanted to make sure that, like, hey, I just wanted to be a person that really wanted to just get into that. So just really all of that really just piling up on me at once, and realizing, you know what, something has to change here. And in that meeting, my boss mentioned that she was having some new employees come in, some new hires come in. Since it was going to be the new school season, we usually get a nice batch of part-timers in for the school year. And they said they'd be looking to me as a leader, because I had 5 years at the public library at the time. And I'm like, okay, a leader. And then lo and behold, one day I'm shelving a cart, and I find a book on leadership by John Maxwell, and it changed my life, because it helped me to become a voracious reader. Because funny enough, I worked in a public library for 5 years, but didn't love reading because in school they give you
Wow.
books to read that you don't like to read.
So what I hear from your story is it's like a series of events that almost was meant to happen to get you to that moment. And I did write down the name of that book, The Five Levels of Leadership, Proven Steps to Maximize Your Potential. And part of what you do, and what I read in the beginning, is that you help others unlock their inner value. So you had to unlock yours and find your potential in order for you to be doing what you do today. So all of these experiences uh, have helped you to gain a better understanding and insight of who is Dominic, right? Who is this person that is living life, but at that time you were kind of just sleepwalking through life. When you read this book, it awoke you. And what was that like? So what happened when you realized, okay, I'm a leader. Someone sees me as a leader, wants me to be a leader, but what do I need to do to become that leader?
Ah, love what you said there about sleepwalking through life because that's a lot of us in the metaphorical zombie apocalypse, especially with these magical smartphones that sometimes people call a fondle slab, but that's a whole nother sidebar for another day. But yeah,
Another
what
story.
real yeah.
Yep, right. A whole nother story, a whole nother talk. We'll come back to that, Dominique.
Yeah. And what really helped me to change was really just thinking for a change because one of the first levels in that book was just positional leadership. And a lot of folks try to lead from that position thinking that that's the end all be all, when truth be told, you don't need a position or a title to be a leader. We're all leaders in our own right, in our own little circles of influence. Like you're either being influenced or someone else is influencing you. It's like sell or be sold. Like either you are metaphorically selling or someone's selling to you. And really just making that change for the better and just tapping into thinking and really realizing that leaders always equip themselves to become better people, because if you are truly wanting to tap into your potential, you usually try to make yourself better and always raise the bar on yourself. So that's really the main thing that I kind of got from that book, was really just making sure you maximize your potential to the point where folks are following you because you're actually doing something that they respect and they admire you for it, and that they too want to emulate that and create it for their own selves too, and you're basically duplicating yourself.
Right. Well, and being a strong leader is you want people to surpass you in some ways,
Hmm.
and and allow yourself to be that person that holds the space for someone to truly find what their own gifts are. And I like to say that life is a series of conversations.
Mm.
And through those conversations, we have experiences. And through those experiences, we learn what works for us, what doesn't, what feels good, and what doesn't feel good. So you had all those little nuggets of experiences, and there were conversations in those experiences, because you mentioned in your story the lady talked to you, your mom talked to you, and so things were, you can look back now and see the dots were being connected, and it was all leading you to become who you have become. And I'll say the experience with your father having Alzheimer's, because a lot of people experience that. My grandmother had it, and
Mm.
it's difficult. So for you to be able to go through all those challenges, go through what your father was going through, and you became part of his caretaking team, correct? You were helping.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, you're trying to grow yourself to become that better version of who you were discovering yourself to be. How did you manage all that?
Great question, great question. And really what really helping to manage all that is that I was still working out at the time with doing some CrossFit and some kickboxing as well, because I actually was doing Taekwondo for a few years under my teacher. And he was only a few years older than me. He was like in his 30s while I was still, my God, 22 at the time. And he moved over to CrossFit because he wanted those who practice martial arts to also be fit too. Because I'm pretty sure if you've seen those old black belt martial artists with the dad bods, or sometimes called father figures, in certain areas, it's like, yeah, they can still kick your arse metaphorically, but in real life, but it's like, you don't want it to have the whole belly too. So he didn't want to be that guy. It's like, yeah, you still have the skills to pay the bills and protect yourself, but hey, you might as well be fit too while you're at it. So he got into CrossFit, and he was a teacher at a martial arts studio, and he wanted to have his own business and be able to set his own hours and not be limited, because he was being limited as an instructor because he wanted to teach more classes and get more hours in. So he said, forget it, let me just go and start my own CrossFit box. And I just followed him there because I was with him for so long.
Mm.
It's kind of hard to switch to a different teacher even if you had him before, and just really following him and getting to the power of fitness on top of the other reading too. And one of the biggest things that I actually picked up from my reading is really questions to design your day. And two of the most important ones that I love are the ones that Ben Franklin is known for, is what good shall I do today? And number two is what good did I do today? And if you put an answer to the first question and you did it, then you have the answer to that question for question number two. And especially if you're asking yourself that question before you go to bed, because it gets your brain cooking at night. Like, it's really taking your brain to task, because we're communicating 24/7, kind of like what I love what you mentioned earlier. Like, everything in life is relying on a conversation. Like, conversations are powerful, and it's great to have conversations that build up people, Eileen style, and really helping them to be the best that they can be, and having a conversation with yourself about, hey, Dom, tomorrow I want you to be awesome. Share a smile with somebody, share a kind word with somebody, share a listening ear with somebody, encourage somebody today, and do it, and just do it. Think of a way to do it. And sometimes your mind will just point you into that direction. Because funny enough, one day I wrote down I was going to share a listening ear with somebody and be a little more attentive to customers. And one lady I actually was more attentive with, she was doing this PowerPoint presentation, and lo and behold, I didn't know that she was so impressed with me taking the extra time to be a little extra attentive with her, that she invited me to speak for her high school career day, because she was administrator at a high school next door. And
Wow.
yeah, so like, opportunities come from just really taking the opportunity to just do some thinking, some planning, and just some exercise. That's really how I've been able to, some of the ways I was able to deal with that when I wasn't taking on the caregiving role when mom was doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Right. Well, and that's very admirable. And one of the things that I do like to share with people is everybody wants to be heard and understood and feel of value. And all it takes is to pause and listen. And you learn that at a young age, and I'm sure it has developed over the years and is part of how you communicate just naturally now, and has helped you with growing yourself personally and professionally. Um, would you say that helping others is a gift that we also give to ourselves?
Oh, yes, ma'am, indeed. Yes, ma'am, indeed. Because it feels good to give. It's like the classic example of lighting another candle with your own candle. Your flame doesn't die. That's really how the way I see it. It's like, you don't lose anything by helping out somebody else. In other words, sometimes you feel even better after you helped somebody else, because I still remember a story that one of my podcast guests shared about how he was an empath himself, and how he just had to talk to this one homeless guy in the corner, and the homeless guy was a little combative with him, because he's like, hey, what are you doing on my corner? Get off my corner. And he was like, hey, I don't want your corner, guy. Like, hey, I, I just want to sit here and talk to you. And he was like, nah, I don't want to hear you, and I don't want to talk to you. And and besides, if I sit here and talk to you, I lose the money I'll make off of this corner.
Hmm.
And he asked him, like, hey, how much money do you make on this corner? I usually make $50 a day. Well, hey, I'll give you bucks right here and now if I just talk to you, because he had this feeling they needed to talk to him.
Mhm.
And he had a conversation with them, and he did let the homeless guy do all the talking, and he felt good afterwards. And he told him after after he handed the money, he's like, you know what, I was going to commit suicide today, but you actually took the time to stop and listen to me. And
Oh,
yeah,
wow. That's powerful. That's
mm-hmm.
powerful. And that just shows how you never know the simplicity of what we do. A smile, a touch, an ear can have a huge impact on someone.
Oh yeah, that's right. You don't even need the Michelin Man softness or the Pillsbury Doughboy softness either.
That's true. That is true. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
I love
All
getting free.
right. Yeah. Okay. So, uh, when I think about your story of those little incidences, the conversation, and you're kind of falling into the book written by John Maxwell, and what has transpired since then, uh, I believe that sometimes there's a bigger plan for us than we are aware of, and that uh, it can bring opportunities that we could never imagine. So, what would you say has been the big plan that you see that's part of your journey, and what opportunities have come into your life as a result?
Well, this opportunity to chat with you is definitely one of them because, oh my
Uh,
goodness, like seeing you grow and get better is freaking awesome. Like you got the great setup and everything, and seeing you grow and become better than ever, and just really seeing other people grow and become better than ever because someone actually mentored me, and I still have mentors that today, and they've inspired me to become better. And really just publishing more books to help out people because especially folks in the chocolate community who may not know how to read and those who may not like reading because like myself, both of my books outside of Crappy to Happy, they're under 100 pages because a lot of people don't have time for 600 pages.
mhm.
So really just giving them that time and giving them something easy to read and giving folks fluff-free books because a lot of books today, they usually contain fluff if they're with a traditional publisher. Traditional publisher, Sacred Stories isn't your traditional publisher. It's a superstar, phenomenal publisher with
Yeah.
awesome humans. That's a totally different story. So really just more books to help out people, helping folks to grow, and heck, eventually having a physical library of my own. And heck, even with every guest on my podcast, the Going North podcast, is the plan is to hopefully have every single, at least one copy of their books in that library. So that's one of the
Mhm.
big goals in the future.
Now, would that be a physical library or is that an online library?
Oh, physical. If it was online, I probably would have done that tomorrow.
Well, you'll have to keep me posted about that and then have you back on the show and talk about it when that becomes a reality. How many shows have you done up to this point?
My goodness. Let's see if I'm counting the recordings that haven't launched yet, probably about a good 330 so far.
Oh, wow. Wow. Nice. And so when did you start your shows? And what have you seen, like the transitions of when you started versus now, and what people are going through in life, and how your books and what you do and your philosophy can be a benefit to the greater community?
Yes, it's been one heck of a transition because the podcast show itself was originally just a way for me to market my own books, but I decided to make it bigger than myself and have other authors come on and share the stories because authors, especially first-time authors, need as many places as possible to get their voices heard, and I wanted to be one of them. And lo and behold, as the years have gone by, and my God, 3 years now, podcasting, it's gone by so fast. It's been one heck of a transition, and really just it's been like letting 100 flowers blossom
Hmm.
because it's been a great way to connect with people all over the globe. I never thought I'd be talking with folks in Australia and heck, even Japan and even other parts of the world through a podcast and really just connecting with others who are taking action in their lives to try to become better. And what I've noticed over these past few years is that a lot more people are getting more confident to publish their work and actually write their works because everybody's got a story in them that they need to
They do.
publish, and heck, even some of them may be sacred stories they need to publish. And really just that folks getting more confident in that area and realizing that even though it can be an income stream for people, they're starting to realize that it may be, I got to do a little more with it, like building a course or whatever. And heck, even coming across more people with stories of really just becoming from basically sick to fit. Because I think Diane Vick, she was one of them with the whole IBS thing that she went there one point where now she's found her like level 99 creativity doing all these wonderful things. And heck, yourself, Eileen, with all the wonderful articles you put on Biz Catalyst 360 and really just seeing more people that create and realizing that at the end of the day, we're all the same. We all just want to become better and really have peace of mind in life. And that's really what success means to a lot of people, just really having peace of mind and just being able to express yourself freely. So a higher level expression is probably the main thing I've noticed.
And I love that. It kind of goes along with that background you have. It's like the inner spark is really happening for individuals, um, and people are reaching out more to express to others. And there's such a great unity going on, I think, in that aspect that people have the confidence to share their story and be able to um, feel good that in some way, shape, or form, even if it helps one person, that's what makes it worth it. And having shows like yours and like mine and others out there gives people a voice. How long has it been that we haven't been able to have a voice? And now with this opening of social media and all the opportunities for the sharing of stories and connecting through those stories, I think it's a beautiful thing. Um, is there a story that stands out for you that as you share what you've been through, that someone has said, thank you, you made a difference in my life?
Wow. Wow. I'd have to say one story that sticks out is from one of my past guests, Antonio T. Smith, because he's a multimillionaire today and his goal is to make a bunch of millionaires, but he didn't have an easy upbringing or a trust fund or anything. He actually was homeless at the age of 9, and he
Oh,
actually memorized textbooks in grade school because he basically had to live in a trash can.
mm,
And he was living in trash cans and he was raped and he had a couple near death experiences.
wow.
And today he has 2 sons and he has a bunch of businesses helping others to really create a version of success for themselves because he himself he went through a very rough time and he's still in his 30s now. I think he's like 37, 38 now, and just that story of him really being a kid in the trash can, just memorizing textbooks, which actually paid off for him later down the road because that really gives you an advantage if you have a bear trap memory like that and learning
Right?
multiple languages because he
Wow.
was doing business in Bangladesh last time I was talking with him as one of his places of doing business. So that was probably the most impactful one. It just shows that really your environment doesn't determine your success if you stay there. Like if you can find a way to get out of your environment and change your mindset for the better and really tap into that inner willpower that we all have, that life force, that prana that we all have, and use it to better yourself and better others, you too can create a version of success for yourself. That's probably been the most powerful one that sticks out to me thus far, or at least the first one that really popped into my head when you asked me that.
Well, thank you for sharing, and it's amazing that that kind of experience has happened in this day and age because he's not that old. He's pretty young, and for him to find that strength within, just like you found the strength within to realize what did I need to do, a change had to happen. He did the same thing. This wasn't working for him, so he did what he could with what he had to get him to where he is today. So that leads me to my last question. So through our trials and tribulations, we all have, life has a way of giving us curveballs and whacks on the head and knock us down, and we've got to wait, we got to pull ourselves back up. Um, we often have discoveries, and uh, the most impactful one for you, that aha, was a result, I think, from what I got from your story in the book, Happy to Happy, um, was when you realized, when you learned of your dad's illness. And I want to ask, what went through your mind as far as yourself? I know for me, sometimes I have these moments where all of a sudden my mind takes me to when supposedly my last breath's going to be. And then I
Mhm.
zoom back and I think, okay, what am I going to do in this space, right? Where that space is getting smaller as I get older. And where am I going to put my attention and focus my time and energy? So I'm sure something similar might have happened when all of that happened, and then your father being diagnosed with the Alzheimer's. Um, did you have any experience like that, or an aha that was a catalyst and part of putting you on the path that you're on now?
I'd have to say one of the things that seeing my father go through that was really just learning more about him because through that illness, even though it's probably, let's say, if there was a top three or top two, that'd probably be in there. Like it, because it affects the people around them more than the actual person because they're not aware of it all the time.
Right.
And the thing that really stuck out for me is or at least I'd say what solidified the fact for me is that we have to really embrace our loved ones while we can every day that we can because I learned more about my father during those years after he had the Alzheimer's before he had it because he didn't have all of his faculties together, he would share certain stories and heck even have some PTSD moments where I'm glad my taekwondo and CrossFit came into play to restrain him at times.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, and just really learning more about him and learning more about my mom as well and their relationship because they were together for 57 years because he passed away back in 2017 and just really seeing how much they truly were dedicated to one another, especially my mother at the time who she was sick for years before he even caught something like my mom herself, she had AFib and all this other nonsense going on and
Mm.
she was getting up there in age even though she was a good I'd say 15 to 20 years younger than him still, but she had her own illness. So she could barely walk too long without falling if she wasn't careful. So really just seeing the way both of them were dedicated to one another, it just really stuck out the fact that just embrace your loved ones while you can and just find the solace in every moment because like the solace it was, I learned more about my father and some of what he had to go through in service and heck even seeing the way that my mom was dedicated to my father and what to look for in the mate down the road of especially down the road because really if he didn't have mom that cared for him the way she did then he might not have lasted long at all. He still may have been in the nursing home today depressed or something, who knows where
Right.
he could have been, and just seeing the love that them two had for each other was just a lesson for me is like, hey, like true love, true love hurts, it waits, and it's very strong and powerful, and it endures, and it really needs endurance, and really just tap into those lessons from the pain, and you can turn that pain into power.
I love that. And So we're gonna end this. I always ask people, what are some last words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
Sure thing. Some last words of wisdom, some wonderful jewels to complete the tennis bracelet for this interview. Yes, indeed. I'd have to say, words of wisdom. I'd have to say, make sure you take some time for yourself, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Have some time for yourself every day, especially if it's at the beginning of the day when you first wake up. Because if you can conquer yourself, you can conquer the world and anything, and you'll have a peace that surpasses all understanding. It can be a light meditation, just giving yourself some quiet time for a good 5 minutes minimum. So that way you can get within yourself first before going out into the world and trying to take that on.
Excellent. Awesome words of wisdom. Thank you, Dom. And before we leave, I want you to let everybody know social media contacts and where they can find you.
Yes, feel free to head over to dombrightmon.com, dombrightmon.com. Links to all my social medias are there. I'm on the major ones like the IGs, the Facebooks, and the LinkedIns, all at Dom Brightmon. And if you head over to that wonderful site and you check out the podcast itself, which features Eileen and some other awesome humans from Crappy to Happy and beyond, it's there. And there's a free gift for you, too. You'll get a free ebook if you want to start, grow, and manage a podcast. Is a free gift for you as well if you leave your name in an email. So dombrightmon.com for all the Dom goodness.
I love that. Well, thank you, Dom. This has been awesome. And we'll definitely have to have you back again. And we wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.